So before we begin, I just want to acknowledge that we're meeting on the traditional, ancestral, unceded territories of the First Nations and Native American peoples. Here where I am in Vancouver, those peoples are the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish nations. But I know where many of you are, you're on the land of other nations. Always, but especially during this difficult time, let us remember our connection to our sisters and brothers in these nations and pray for the day in which we might be with them in right relationship. Welcome. Welcome to Living Interfaith. Know that the whole of you is welcome. You're not asked to leave who you are in your own homes. Please bring who you are in with you. But what you are asked to remember is that everyone around you has brought who they are in with them as well. And all of goodwill are welcome. Now let us sing.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of living, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, lovers of living, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lovers of living, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Bruce and Cheryl. So before we get started, I have just a few announcements. The Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of Vancouver have reached out to us, and actually specifically Dolores here, but other folks from the community reached out to us to see if we'd like to celebrate the centenary of the Ascension of Abdul Baha with them. So Abdul Baha was the eldest son of Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i faith, and he himself was their spiritual leader for almost 30 years in the very beginning of the 20th century. So next week is going to be the 100-year anniversary of his death and ascension. So Baha'is all around the world are going to be celebrating him and his lifelong work as an interfaith ambassador. So I agreed to set up an event with the Baha'i Spiritual Assembly so we can celebrate with them and learn more about Abdul Baha. The event is going to take place this coming Wednesday from 7 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll meet with some of them and hear a presentation from Kamram Zamanian about this occasion. So if you'd like to join us, I'll put the Zoom information right now in the chat. So that's going to be on Wednesday from around 7 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to celebrate with our Baha'i friends. Also, I have just one other announcement before I'll turn it over to Marcus. So our Women Mystics group, we have this study group has been going so well. Bless Harold Rosen. I'd actually been concerned about him because he and his wife live in Abbotsford, which has largely been underwater this week. But thankfully, I heard back from him yesterday and they were out of town, so they didn't have to experience any of the harsh weather. And luckily, where they're staying is up on a hill. So he's safe and well, thankfully. So that group luckily is going very well. We last studied Julian of Norwich, the English Christian theologian. You can see the recording from that session on our website. And our next session is going to be on Wednesday, December 1st, from 7 to 8:30 Pacific Standard Time. We'll be studying Mirabai of Rajasthan, the Indian Hindu poet and reformer. So the Zoom link is on our website, or if you write to me, I can get it to you. And we'd love to see you then. So thank you. So those are my only announcements. But now it's my joy to turn it over to Marcus, where I'm sure Marcus is here. Oh, there's Marcus.
Hello.
There, perfect. So Marcus and I work together at the Multifaith Action Society, and we're having our big 2022 calendar launch. So we produce these beautiful calendars, and Marcus actually designed this whole one. I did some of the writing for it, which was wonderful, and Marcus designed it, and he's going to tell us about it now. So thank you, Marcus.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay, just one moment. Share my screen. Okay, can you see this? Here we are. Okay, so good morning, everyone. My name is Marcus, and I'm here today on behalf of the Multifaith Action Society. We're a long-standing Vancouver-based charity dedicated to interfaith dialogue and education. We're closely aligned with Living Interfaith Sanctuary in our vision and our mission, and Kathy's graciously invited me here this morning to spend a few moments introducing you to our brand new 2022 Multifaith calendar. I'm sure many of you are already familiar with this, but if you aren't, it's a very comprehensive source of information on world religions, and it's also a beautiful collection of community-sourced artwork. And each year, we curate the artwork around a specific theme. So in recognition of all the hardships that we've collectively endured over the past year and a half, the theme for 2022 is resilience. We're very lucky to have Kathy on our calendar working group at MAS, and she wrote the following words of introduction to our theme. Let's just walk you through this. Multifaith Action Society proudly presents resilience. Even in the midst of rising seas and turbulent waters, somehow life goes on. Nature endures, people band together, and more than that, they thrive. Challenges bring suffering, it's true, but they also bring new opportunities. They give us a fresh start, a second chance to improve ourselves and our societies. They teach us courage and humility. During such times, we often have no choice but to stare down our personal and communal imperfections, to see ourselves and others as we really are. The process is painful, but is also a necessary truth-telling, for it allows us to deepen into empathy and acceptance, and through it, we are purified together like coal into diamonds. And there's just a shot of the nice calendar, our beautiful rafting artwork on the cover. I'll just spend a couple more minutes just talking about some of the features, and then you can get underway. I don't want to hold you up too long, but this is actually the 36th edition of our calendar. We've been doing this for 36 years. And as I said, it combines comprehensive information related to world religions, their spiritual traditions and observances, with community-sourced artwork, creating a unique and compelling product with outstanding educational and artistic value. Here you can see one of our interior spreads. You can see all of the information on the left-hand side, detailing all of the interfaith spiritual events that are happening in any given month. There's nearly 500 different holidays and festivals from 14 world religions in the calendar, as well as select cultural events, public holidays, and United Nations observances. And here you can just see some of the details of how much information exactly is in this thing, just quite a lot. We're privileged to live in a society that is diverse, multicultural, and engaging. A common theme underlying mutual respect and understanding is simply getting to know each other better. The calendar facilitates understanding of many spiritual occasions and observances important to our diverse society, providing a basis for cross-cultural dialogue and collaboration. The calendar helps foster environments of mutual respect, awareness, and understanding across communities and in workplaces, as well as both private and public institutions across North America and internationally. But far from being just an informational resource, the calendar also provides a platform for visual artists to have their work exhibited in print. Each year, our team selects about 25 original works from artists all around the world for inclusion in the calendar. And the call for submissions for our 2023 edition is actually open right now. The theme is building a new future together. And if you go to multifaithcalendar.org, you can get all of the information about that call for art. There are monetary incentives to getting your artwork chosen. So I would really, if you're an artist or you dabble, I would definitely recommend checking it out. Here's just a little overview of some of the monthly calendar art that we have in this year's edition. It's really diverse and colorful, as you can see. And that just brings me to the final slide here. If you're interested in the calendar, you can go to multifaithcalendar.org or call the toll-free number here to place an order. And it's also worth mentioning that bulk and wholesale discounts are available. And we also have an electronic version of this calendar for larger organizations. So that's all I'll say today. I will hand it back over to Kathy, and thank you all so much for your time. I really appreciate it. thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Marcus. I
You're
really
welcome. Thank you.
And we're so lucky to have Marcus. He laid out the whole thing, and it was no small feat. We had, I think we had about 1,200 submissions of artwork that our team went through to try to pick 25, which is just
It's a tall order. Yes, difficult job.
And then I don't know how many services or how many occasions are there, because it's like hundreds, isn't it?
Yeah, it's between 450 and 500, somewhere around there. It's quite a lot. So I'm just going to drop the URL in the chat and also that toll-free number.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. No, it's amazing. So he spent much time trying to get everything lined up. But it's been lovely. And I actually use that when planning the services. That's how we figure out kind of our way of doing it is we pick 2 services from each spiritual tradition that we do over the course of the year. So it's a planning session around this time of year to figure out what we're going to celebrate in the new year. And I don't even know how hard it would be if we didn't have this to go through. So it's very fun. And then also it's nice because when people say, oh, I'm so sorry, I can't attend that event because something's coming up, I can actually look and then read about it. Say, oh, that's so interesting. I had no idea this was a special occasion on this day. It's just a good way for us to learn about our friends.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Marcus.
You're welcome.
All right, there you go. Perfect. Okay. Are there any other announcements that anyone has before we'll get started with the service? Okay. Thank you. Here, let's just come into silence for a moment. I have a prayer from Guru Nanak. Oh God, let me realize your unity with all. I love you, God. I love godliness in humanity. I sing the love of you. I repeat your name. I sing your glory. I love you, God, as the lotus loves water, as the bird loves rain, as a wife loves her husband. Make divine love my pen, and my heart the writer. If I repeat your name, I live, but if I forget it, I die. I open my heart to you. I enter into communion with you. I sink into your arms and feel the divine embrace. God is one. God's name is truth, creative being, without fear, without hatred, image of the undying, God beyond birth. God is self-existent. By the Guru's grace, the truth is obtained. The opening words from the Guru Granth Sahib. And now if you'd like to unmute and offer each other a sign of peace. Peace, everyone. Welcome this morning. It's so good to see you.
Peace to all.
Peace.
Peace.
Salam alaikum.
To everyone.
Peace be with
Salam,
you.
salam. Peace.
Peace for everyone. Thank you.
Peace, everybody. Thank you. And when you're ready, let us sing.
Vaheguru, 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 Vaheguru.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. What a wonderful meditation. Now, if you'll join me in our joint affirmation, we come together in peace. We sing together in joy and with love. We worship together in one house, a house with names beyond number. Our paths are many, our beliefs are as leaves, and the tree that we cleave to is nourished by the light of compassion, justice, and mutual respect. May our lives, our beliefs, and our actions help to bring about the world of love we all seek. Thank you. And now is when we usually pray in our own homes and in our own ways for something in the world. As always, there are so very many things we need to pray for. But this week, if we could take some time to pray for the victims of the flooding and the mudslides here in BC. I think it was 4 or 5 cities that had all the main highways around them wiped out under mudslides and flooding. So Hope was cut off from other places. Mission was cut off. Agassi, up in Lillooet, you couldn't come down. Vancouver itself, you couldn't actually get out of unless you wanted to drive through the states. So just all these places. And Abbotsford, big city of Abbotsford, was in a drained lake. And that lake is less drained right now. They've had one pump working like round the clock, trying to get everything back in the river. And in Merritt too. Thank you so much, Dolores. So many cities. I've been reading about the Sikh community is so lovely, and they've been making food, thousands and thousands of meals, and then renting helicopters, trying to get access to helicopters to fly it into these various cities. But it's been just such a difficult time. And so many people just cut off from food, cut off from their families, their homes and farms destroyed. So if we could pray for the victims of the flooding. Thank you. And when you're ready, let us sing.
Guru Nanak Aya, Guru Nanak Aya, Guru Nanak Aya, Guru Nanak Aya. Kalatarana Guru Nanak Aya, Kalatarana Guru Nanak Aya, Kalatarana Guru Nanak
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Bruce and Cheryl. I don't know if you all know this, but among the many other things they do, Bruce actually belongs to a group called Indian Standard Time, where I believe you're the only person not from Punjab. Is
I'm
that
the token white guy, yes.
so your Punjabi is quite good. You have much experience.
Well, better than average for someone who looks like me.
It's very impressive. You can find some of their songs online. It's really fantastic. So Indian Standard Time. Thank you. Friends, thank you so much. Now is when I usually say that I would pass around a basket, but in lieu of that, I will put our donation page in the chat. Many of you already donate so much to help support our community. I'm just so grateful for that. So thank you. Also during this time, any extra money that you could donate to help the victims of the flooding and Guru Nanak's free kitchen, which is organizing food to take to people, would be very welcome and very much needed. And as always, the Indian Residential School Survivor Society could also use funds as folks are still processing everything that's happened, and as they're unfortunately finding more and more bodies over time of the children who were killed in residential schools. If there are any other causes that I haven't said, please say them now or put them in the chat. Okay, thank you. And when you're ready, let us sing.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Thank you so much. It's now my pleasure to turn it over to Tahil Sharma. So he's our friend from the United Religions Initiative. He's the regional coordinator. I believe he's in LA right now, although for a while I was talking to him when he was in Italy on an important trip. So he does lots of amazing work and is blessedly great to join us today to talk to us about Guru Nanak's birthday. So thank you, Tahil. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Kathy, and thank you to everyone here at the Living Interfaith Sanctuary. I've got to say, I'm still quite moved by the space that was created today, with all of you singing in your own ways, but particularly getting to hear Cheryl and Bruce singing things in Gurmukhi and Punjabi, which are not things I get to hear every day. So I must give credit where it's due for creating a very immersive space for me as a Sikh to feel like I can be in prayer in a way that I am accustomed to. So Kathy, for your leadership, and to all of you for creating a space for me as a Sikh to feel welcome. Thank you for that. So yesterday was the celebration of Guru Nanak's Gurpurab, or the birth anniversary of Guru Nanak in 1469. And for Sikhs, Guru Nanak is more than just the founder of the tradition. He is the person who reminded us of what revolutionary love looks like as we connect it to the divine. Guru Nanak was born as a Hindu in a family in Talwandi, which is a city in Pakistan. He was a part of a family who was engaged in sort of the work that they do. They didn't really expect to have a miracle child in their midst, who was willing to engage the audacious, the courageous, and the loving at all times. but did it in ways that made it really seem like it was more than just trying to make a statement. It was more than just trying to be a prophet. It was reminding people of the role that they have in being connected with one another. Guru Nanak from a young age brought many kinds of divine wisdom into various spaces in the people that he spoke to and the colleagues from different faith traditions that he engaged with, and in his abilities to be able to do what was right at all times. And he did it in ways that, you know, continue to surprise people when they first hear these stories. One story that really sticks to mind right now is one that I shared recently at the opening of a garden nearby, because I was asked to talk about stories of a garden that are related to Sikhism. There wasn't really one that came to mind that could be as similar as the Garden of Eden to the Abrahamic traditions, but there was a story of Guru Nanak who was walking near the river Ganges, who saw many people worshiping and bathing themselves in the river and offering water in obeisance to the sun and to our ancestors facing the east. He looked at this practice and he actually stepped into the water with everyone, but instead of doing the same practice with them, he turned around and offered the water to the west. People took notice and asked him, "What are you doing?" We're praying to the sun, we're praying to our ancestors. And he's like, "Well, actually, I'm taking this water and offering it to my plants that are just a couple hundred miles away from here." And all of the different people looked at each other thinking, "What in the world are you talking about? Those plants are hundreds of miles away. How are you giving them water from here?" And he said, "The same way you're giving water to the sun and your ancestors that are up in the heavens, millions of miles away, that is the same way I am offering water to my plants." The lesson of this story is to really make people understand that it's not about just engaging in ritual and prayer to try to fix your problems. It's about being realistic and mutually responsible in how those problems can be fixed. And Guru Nanak was very intentional about creating that kind of a paradigm, not just for people who became Sikh after centuries, but for people across faith traditions who wanted to discover and deeply enter their own space of faith. Guru Nanak based Sikhism on three main principles: Nam Japna, which is the eternal recitation and meditation on God's name in your mind and your heart and on your lips; Vandikeshakna, which is taking all of what you honestly earn and making sure you give an intentionally large percentage to those who are in need, aside from just what is material, but also your time and your energy; and Kirat Karna, which is overall living an honest life, whatever that means to you. And in establishing those principles, he really brought an important lesson. And it was this: you cannot live a life of faith, you cannot live a life in service to God if you do not serve the creation that you're a part of. A big part of what Kathy mentioned in the Sikh community that is helping to serve langar, or free community food, is a very deep part of our tradition that was started by Guru Nanak and his wife. The langar system was a part of how communities came together to pray, but to also serve and feed one another, which carries on to be one of the most important traditions in Sikhism, because it is the nature of serving and being in community at all times. Everyone gets the same food, everyone sits in the same place, everyone sits in joy with one another, everyone serves one another. And to not be separate from others as if you are higher or lower than them is one of those messages that came with doing this service, which is why it became part and parcel of Sikh traditions around the world. If you ever go to a Sikh temple now, you will be met with smiles, with welcome, with embraces, and certainly with food. Because the nature of that charity is not just to feed you to convince you of something different, but it's to feed you because nourishing you is probably the most important way to make sure you can carry on. And Guru Nanak was very clear about that nourishment across the board. You nourish their spirits, you nourish their minds, you nourish their stomachs, and you nourish their livelihoods. Living an honest life for Guru Nanak was an essential part of making sure that justice always prevailed. And for context, people have to think about Guru Nanak living in what is the 15th century, a time where the Mughal Empire was sort of in its beginning years with the Emperor Babar sort of ruling in the lands, while many of the communities on the ground who were Hindu and Jain and Buddhist were kind of living within their own context, sort of doing things as they have been for centuries. And Guru Nanak sort of stands out and says, why are you all so materialistic? Why are you all so focused on trying to be better than one another? Why are none of you trying to help those who are in need, while saying that you're really devoted and really focused on making a better world? This kind of hypocrisy did not make Guru Nanak happy, which is why his ability to realize that it was about service at the end of the day, no matter what lens you have in front of you, that you have to focus on service and justice to really show what your faith is. And that ended up serving as, long story short, a middle finger to those in power across the principalities and across the empire. Because when people understood that they had power and that power was inextricable, they had an opportunity to be able to make a difference. And Guru Nanak established that power for a lot of folks in many ways. He lived in what is known as a sab tera mentality, that everything I have is yours. So any chance that he got some sort of money to do something, rather than doing the thing that he needed to do, he would give it to the poor. He would give it to those in need. But people never realized the power of that mentality to actually establish a moral economy until he had a story where a very not well-to-do person was, sort of going about their day, and a rich prince had heard that Guru Nanak has come to town. So Guru Nanak came and was walking through the town, met the prince, and basically is ready to be like showered with gifts and foods and meals galore by this prince. And Guru Nanak wanted to question his intentions. And he said, I don't think your intentions are pure when you come to me to be able to serve me. And he proved it to him by doing this. He went to the man who was working laboriously on something and asked him for a piece of bread. He goes and he grabs the piece of bread, and then he goes to the prince and says, give me a piece of bread. He takes both of those pieces of bread, and from the laborer, he squeezes it, and this pure butter just pours out. And not just like one that you would just lather on a piece of bread, but it was gushing out like there's no tomorrow. And he showed the prince and he says, look, this is the work of someone honest. This is the work of someone compassionate and loving, who gave me barely anything that they have, but this was their everything. This is the hard work of love. And from the bread, the same looking bread of the prince, he squeezed it and out came out blood. And he said, this is the work of oppression. This is the work of injustice, that you make others work for you so only you can benefit. And this is the lesson that helps remind us of why living a dedicated life towards serving others and to be honest makes a big difference. Guru Nanak has established this story in a lot of different ways in Sikhism. But for me as a Sikh, I kind of look to him as one of the first social justice activists that I could ever think of. Coming from, one, the Eastern traditions, but two, coming as a prophet and a founder of these faith traditions. One who was very intentional about making clear what was right and what was not acceptable, and creating a tradition as such where all the gurus after him, including our holy texts, continue to profess that justice. Guru Nanak fought for gender equality, and he said that there is no world without women. He made it very clear that in the service of God and in the eyes of God, men and women could be equal and are equal, no exceptions. We come from seeing Guru Nanak as someone who always pushed back against the oppression of those of different traditions. And which is why, for those of you that don't know, the Guru Granth Sahib, our scriptures, is one of the few scriptures that actually has authors from more than one religion that is not Sikhism. The scriptures are written by the Sikh gurus, by Muslim clerics, 2 or 3 of them, and a couple of dozen Hindu scholars who are able to come together with shared values and a common intent to improve the world. And in the ability to be able to do that, Guru Nanak just wanted to share the message that we are all in the discipline of the divine. We are all disciples of something bigger. And to be able to understand that discipline means we can't do it just focused on ourselves. We can't do it just focused on our needs, our desires, and our capacity. We need to do it being mindful of our neighbor, of the stranger, of the one that is different from us, because the same light within us is lit within them. And we don't just look at them as someone that, oh, we helped them for one day and we've done our work. We are mutually responsible for them, and we are interconnected with them throughout our existence. And through that mutual responsibility, we remember the prayer that was actually sung earlier today, which is Nanak Naam Chardi Kala Tere Paane Sarbat Tabala, which is in remembering God's name, in remembering the divine in all of its various forms, that we actually are looking for a kind of joy and a kind of contentment that is relentless. We're looking for relentless joy in all things. And in the suffering and in the loss that we've heard on this call today, we still look at things with relentless joy. Not that we want to suffer or see people suffer, that we know that we are able to help each other through those pains, that we are never genuinely alone. And it's because God is our steward at all times. It is because that joy is something that is inextricable from how we live. And Guru Nanak continues to teach that even through the Sikh community and even through the celebration of his birthday. Because it is then when we see the world and all of its injustices that are being endured, some of which have happened in North America and some that continue to be endured around the world. We are not in a good place, but with a relentless joy, when we can embrace and drive ourselves to these issues with a smile on our face, we have a world that can be improved. We have a world worth saving, and we have a peace worth achieving that we haven't seen before. So with that, I want to just say, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Beautiful. What a fantastic message. Oh, thank you so much, Tahil. It's so beautiful. I think we have one more song from Bruce and Cheryl, and then I don't know what your time is like, Tahil, but if you have a little bit of time after 11, if some folks have some questions for you, is that okay if you stay on? Answer some? Wonderful. Thank you. When you're ready, Bruce and Cheryl.
Suha chandamalina ho kolu ke babare chariye chandamalina ho kolu ke babare kolu ke babare kolu ke babare Dhan Guru Pyare Dhan Guru Pyare Dhan Guru Pyare Dhan Guru Pyare Guru Mukh Pant Suhavrada
Wonderful. Just wonderful. Thank you so much, Bruce and Cheryl. Just amazing. Friends, let us go forth in love, supporting one another, standing in solidarity with the oppressed and the poor, and looking to those amazing, just enlightened ones like Guru Nanak for just a guide in how we should be in our own lives and in the world. May you be blessed.